you do that? How did you do that?
Welcome back everyone to another ESO build video. Today I'm giving you a brand new build. This is actually a Bobo build for the Warden, appropriately named Yogi after the bear. And of course this is being made for PVE, not for PvP. Now I know Bobo builds have been one of those kind of myths. People have always wondered, do they exist, do they not exist, all this kind of stuff. Well, Summerset introduced a change in the game where bows count now as 2 pieces of gear. It's one weapon, but it counts as 2 pieces. So you can still wear a 5-piece set, another 5-piece set, and a monster helmet and shoulders without the need to use dual wield. You can use other sets, you can use bows, you can use two-handers, all that good stuff. And of course, now it's much easier to do. So after obviously popular demand, this is now the Bobo build for the Warden. It's very strong, it hits really hard, it does massive damage, and it is set to be ranged. That's very important, by the way. It is ranged DPS. I've seen a lot of Bobo builds out there putting stupid numbers on a skeleton, yet they're 2 feet away from the skeleton, taking advantage of melee abilities. This is not a melee build, this is a ranged build. Bear that in mind. No pun on the bear. Anyway, I'm now going to get into the stats first of all, so we can pop a potion so that everything is just as we like it. We're sitting on 19.5k health, which is huge for a stam DPS. We're sitting on 36.2k stamina. That does actually go a little bit higher if you go with your gear up, but it's not necessary. 1.1k stam recovery. That is huge. We also have 2.6k weapon damage, which goes higher with our glyph, and we're sitting on 67.6% crit. We do want to make sure we crit. We're doing a lot of direct damage. We can't afford to miss those big hits. Our resistances are quite low, but you can get buffs from the group, or you can slot one yourself. It's entirely up to you, but it's 11k and 11k across the board. Quite well balanced. 64 points into stamina, of course, making our resources as high as possible. Stage 4 vampire, as always, and of course we're using the thief Munderstone. We want to pump up that crit. You can go lover if you're more solo based, or if you're in groups that don't necessarily have a lot of penetration bonuses, but for the rest of the time, go to thief. It's really strong. Also, we're using max health, max stamina food. Now, if we go into the skills, first of all, I am going to go into these in detail. Some of them we're not actually going to use at all, so when it comes to the passive, it's going to be quite fast, but stay with me, you'll understand a lot more if you don't skip the content. So, first of all, Circle of Protection. This is a flex slot. This is on the bar for a bonus, which I'll get to in the passives, but above all, it lays on the ground, gives you 8% reduction to all damage you take, and 5 other people can benefit from this as well, plus you all get 10% stam recovery, which is really nice. This is in the Fighters Guild skill line. You don't have to slot this, but just make sure that you slot any Fighters Guild ability and you're good to go. So I generally put either Expert Hunter on or Circle of Protection. So you've got a little bit of resistance, but don't spam it, don't overuse it, and if you don't want to ever press this button, you can just put it there for the stats. It is in the Fighters Guild and it is for the passives, but I'll come to the passives later. So this, Expert Hunter or Circle of Protection, it's entirely up to you. Morphs don't matter, it's just there for stats, but if you want to utilize it, go for it. Second up is the Bull Netch, which is in our Animal Companion skill line. It's the 4th one you unlock. It's quite lengthy to get to, but you do need a couple of these anyway. So put these on your bar while you're leveling up, and you'll unlock this in no time. Morph it to the Bull Netch specifically, and what this will do is this will give you major sorcery and major brutality at all times. Now, we don't need major sorcery so much, but the brutality we do need. Plus, it also gives us 4k stamina over 27 seconds. So our recovery not only is at 1.1k already, but we also get back this 4k every almost 30 seconds. It's really powerful. And of course, it looks like this. Doesn't cost anything to cast. See this little squid thing here? As long as it's with us, we're constantly getting stamina back. So if I'm blocking, obviously you don't get stamina back while blocking, but watch my stamina. It's gradually going up, because this dude is constantly regenerating me. Really handy. Now, of course, it doesn't cost, so you can recast it and it will restart the timer. You can spam it, in fact, as much as you want if necessary. But we'll get to that in the passives as well. I'll show you a little trick with a Netch and why it's a little bit more powerful than it looks. Anyway, that's a passive buff. Keep that up 100% of the time. It's in our rotation anyway. I've deliberately put it in there so that you can overcast it for a few extra perks. Bear that in mind for now. But we will get to those shortly. Subterranean Assault. This is absolutely insane. Bang on the ground. 3, 2, 1. Pop. Shulks come flying out and hit in area of effect the targets that they reach. Not only do they hit them with a really high amount of damage, but they also hit them with major fracture for 5 seconds, reducing their physical resistance for 5280. Now that's the same debuff you get from Pierce Armor if a tank is using that, as they should be, to taunt the target. However, this is an AoE, so if you've got those little ads around, this will catch those as well. Now, this is in the Animal Companion skill line as well, and this is Subterranean Assault. Morph to this one specifically from Scorch. Second ability you unlock is really, really easy to get. Get it as soon as you can. Cutting Dive. This we don't actually use that often. It is there from the first ability you unlock on this skill line as well. It is there just for stats. Again, passives I will go over very soon. However, if you do want to use this occasionally, it's quite fast. You can spam it, and it hits targets like this. A big Cliff Racer flies out. Very easy to use. You can't miss. It just attacks the target and guides onto it. You can't. That exploded. You can't miss it. Now, where are we? Next amount of skills. Lethal Arrow. This is in the bow skill line. Now, this is the first ability you unlock. It starts off as Snipe, morph it to Lethal Arrow, and this will hit the target for a massive amount of damage, and of course it will apply a poison status effect to the target, guaranteeing of course that you will have an additional 6-second damage over time poison effect on the target. Plus it also affects them with Major Fire, which means their healing is reduced as well. So that's not too relevant in PvE, but if you do have anything that heals quite a lot, this can help kind of negate that. However, this is our main spammable above all. This is not our main spammable, this is. This is on here for stats, but you can use it occasionally if you want. Now, our ultimate is of course Yogi Bear. There he is, Wild Guardian. You want to morph this to Wild Guardian from Feral Guardian, because this is the one that does physical damage instead of magic damage. This is very, very cheap. It only costs 75 ultimate, and it hits like a bloody steam train. You can keep this ability active at all times, so you always have the bear with you, unless of course it dies. It does passive damage. It hits light attacks and heavy attacks. It rears up on its back legs and slaps the target in the face. It's really, really strong. But every 75 ultimate, you can activate it and then make him do a really, really big hit, dealing over 20k physical damage. That's not including crits. And of course, it deals 100% more damage to enemies below 25% health. So the lower the health they are, the more aggressive this ability gets, and it hits really, really hard. Solo, I've seen this hit up in excess of 75k. Fully trial buffed, God knows, it's absolutely insane. Now, you want to double bar this, because if you don't double bar it, the bear will disappear. So you have to have it on both bars. Also note that the abilities are not just direct damage on their own to a single target, they do actually hit in area of effect as well. So occasionally he'll swipe for about 17k physical damage and stunning them for 2 seconds as well. He'll just kind of rear up and give them a really big slap. It's quite nasty. Back bar, another bow, surprise. Soothing Spores. This is actually also a flex slot. You don't have to have this ability. It's in the green balance skill line. You unlock it very, very early in the game. So first ability you unlock in the skill line, so you can get it straight away. And what this does is this will heal anyone in that cone. You see that kind of blue shimmer? Anyone caught in that will be healed, including you and including your pet. Very, very straightforward. It's a burst heal. It's quite strong, especially since it's morphed to stamina anyway. So really, really nice. And it heals allies for 15% more if they are within 8 meters of you. So for you and anyone close by, including if your bear's like here, you'll get really, really nice heals from it. However, like I said, it's a flex slot. You don't have to use this if you want. Instead, if you like the traditional heal, go into PvP and unlock Vigor. Now you can go into Battlegrounds and lose repeatedly if you're not that good at PvP or you don't really like it, and you'll still get AP for completing the arenas. So every time you go in there, even if you lose, you'll get points. Or you can really fight for it and win. Or you can go into Cyrodiil and find a really, really big Zerg, get stuck in and just keep getting your points until you've got enough to get it. So it's your choice. You can use Vigor if you want, or you can use Soothing Spores. It's your choice. Now, Poison Injection is in the bow skill line. Surprise, surprise, since we're using a bow. The last one you unlock, this does take a little bit of time to get, but this is very, very important indeed. This is Poison Arrow to start with. It gets morphed to Poison Injection, and this is a single target damage over time effect with an impact, obviously, when it first hits. This lasts for 10 seconds, and the lower the target's health, the more aggressive this gets. Technically, it's an execute, yes, because obviously it does up to 240% more damage to enemies under 50%, but you must keep this on the target at all times. It's a very strong execute, but it's also a very strong passive dot to keep running all the time that you're doing damage. Next ability is Subterranean Assault. Again, we double bar this, and I'll show you why inside the rotation. It takes 3 seconds to fire, and then it lasts 5 seconds. But we're going to be using both bars, and we're not doing a 5-second rotation. Our rotation's about 10, maybe 11 seconds long, so you want to double bar it and make sure we get the most out of this. That will make more sense when we get to rotation. Bird of Prey, this is in the Animal Companion skill line as well. Surprise, surprise. Now, this is the last one you unlock. It takes some time. Now what this does, this will give you major expedition, major endurance, and minor berserk, increasing your movement speed by 30%, your stamina recovery by 20%, and your damage done by 8% for 10 seconds. Now what it looks like is this. Big flappy birds, makes you run really, really, really fast, and makes you hit like a steam train. It's very, very nice indeed. Now, that same passive is actually in our potions, the recovery bonus. But the potions that we're going to use are really, really strong anyway, and we are going to want to use it all the time. So you might want to play around with some potions. If not, I'll show you what we use anyway. Endless Hail is the last ability we use on this bar. Now this is in the bow skills as well. It's the second one you unlock, so it's very, very easy to get. It's your main damage over time effect that lays on the ground. You must have this down at all times. Very, very simple. AoE on the ground. That does damage every half a second. It's very, very aggressive. It does a lot of damage. You want to make sure that is on the target 100% of the time if you can help it. So that's your main AoE, and your snipe, or your lethal arrow, is your main spammable. So we'll give an example here. There's Volley, or Endless Hail. You can see it just tick, tick, tick every half a second. And this is our main kind of spammable, this one here. It's really, really hard. Now, of course, those are small enemies because we're on Overland, but you get the idea. Keep this running all the time. It's nuts. Now, obviously we don't need to put on our ultimate in the back bar because it's exactly the same as the front one. We have double barred this, we have double barred this, we have a couple of bow abilities and a main buff. Now, like I said, this is here for stats. You can use it for protection, or you can put it on for bonuses. Now, I'm going to go into the passives now, and this is going to start making a lot more sense. Obviously, this is a lot faster than the other videos because we're only using one weapon line. We're only using a couple of skill lines, so this is not much in it. It's not too complicated, but you have to make sure everything is clean. Animal Companions. Now, I said there's a couple of abilities, like this is here for passives, and so is this. Now, this one here is very important. When one of your animal companions is killed or unsummoned, you restore health. Now, what does that mean? If the bear dies, you heal. If you hit something with a cliff racer, you'll heal. But if you recast this, even while blocking, because you can block cast it, it counts as being unsummoned even though it's free, and you'll get a 1.2k heal every time you do it. Not a massive amount, but it does help. Now, of course, this here will give you ultimate. Every time you cast an animal companion ability, you will gain 4 ultimate once every 8 seconds. So if you cast this, or your cliff racer, or your shulks, once every 8 seconds, or your birds, that one there, you will get ulti. We are going to make sure we always get that bonus because we've always got it in our rotation anyway. Increases your magicka and stamina recovery by 12% if an animal companion ability is slotted on your bar. It is. We've got one here, we've got one here, and here, and here. We've got one on the back bar as well. We are covered. We get recovery on both bars. It's really, really disgusting. And this is ignored by some people or misunderstood. Increases your damage done by 2% for each animal companion ability slotted. Most people confuse this with a fighter's guild and assume that means weapon damage. So what they do is they put a fighter's guild ability on, increasing their damage by 3% weapon damage, I might add. This doesn't do that. This increases your overall damage. All of the damage that you do is increased by 2% per ability slotted. So we have 1 here, 2, 3, and 4. We have 4 animal companion abilities on our bar, meaning that we get a massive 8% bonus to all of our damage. It's really, really strong. On the back bar, of course, we've only got 3. 1 there, 1 there, and 1 there. So we've got a 6% bonus on the back bar, but we don't stay on the back bar very long. Green balance. We don't use a lot of these, but they are quite handy because we don't really heal that often in terms of this skill line. We don't use this very often, but if you do use it, you will benefit from it because you will get a 2% increase bonus for your heals of that ability if you choose to. You don't have to get it. It's not a massive bonus, but you can get it if you want. But something that does count, when you heal yourself or an ally while under 40% health with the green balance ability, you gain major mending increase in your healing done by 25% for 3 seconds. So if you are low health and you pop one of these, Oh, wrong one. You pop this, you will actually get Major Mending, increasing the healing done, so you will actually heal much, much more. So the lower your health, the bigger the heal. Also, when you heal an ally with a green balance ability, you gain 250 magicka or 250 stamina, whichever resource pool is lower. This can happen once every 1 second. So if you're healing multiple people, you can get quite a bit of juice back if you are low. So that can contribute as well. And above all, when you heal yourself or an ally, you grant the target minor toughness, increasing their max health by 10% for 10 seconds. That's any heal. You don't have to have this. So if you had Vigor, that would work. If you have the heal from the Betty, that will also work. All you've got to do is heal yourself. So let's get hit by something. See this over here? Let's see if he can hit me. It's going to die. Damn it. He's going to crystal shard it to death. I can't lose health. Perfect. Let's find something to kill. Something a bit bigger. Where are we? You. This dude will hit me. My health is 19.5. There's the Betty. Now my health is 21.1. All you got to do is use that, and I'm going to use that every rotation anyway. So as long as I'm not 100% health, I'm going to have a really big health bonus all the time. And for anyone else that gets this heal as well, so will they. Really, really nice. Now, Winter's Embrace we're not really using. We're not using any of these abilities at all. You can if you want to, but we're not using any. You could put a resist buff on if you want, but that will drain your magicka sustain because we're using the bird of prey. So I'm not using any of these, but what I am going to buy is this passive here. Reduces the effectiveness of snares applied to you by 15%. You will get snared a lot in PvE and in PvP in this game. Make sure you reduce its effectiveness. The rest are bonuses for slotting abilities on your bar, frost and magic bonuses, which we're not using any of. Skip it. Bow. Of course we're using a bow. Use every single one of these. I don't even need that because I'm not going to require it, but you can buy it if you want. But we'll go through these. This will give you a 12%. This is huge, by the way. This will give you a damage bonus of up to 12% against targets at longer range. I've seen it so many times, and this is what I mentioned at the very beginning. Bow builds, I'll quote Bow builds, but they're in the face of the enemy with abilities that are 4 or 5 meters away from the enemy. Melee range, basically. The bow is stronger at long range. I don't care how much you hit on a skeleton with it, that's not effective. Because if you're in the face of the enemy, if you're in melee position, you want to make sure you've got some defense. You want to make sure that you've got maybe Deadly Cloak on, or a damage shield if you're magicka or whatever. You've got to have some form of defense. We are quite squishy out in the open. If we stand in the enemy's face with a bow build, 1, there's no point of firing at point blank range because you don't get an extra bonus for it, and 2, we're going to die. So the further away you are, the more you benefit, the more damage your abilities will do. Make sure you are at range. Now, I tested this quite a lot, and it looks like if you're around the 20 meters range mark, which is the same range as Acid Spray, that's when your damage peaks. Your light attacks, your heavy attacks, and all of your bow abilities as well. So make sure you kind of stand back. That's your job. Yes, I know sometimes you've got to stack up, but again, it's depending on the mechanics of the particular fight that you're in as to where you can or can't stand. Try this in trials, try this in dungeons. There's lots and lots of situations where you have to move around, and you're very, very fast. Really fast. I'm going to get to that point as well when I get to the gear. I'm going to show you 2 stack and bonuses that we're actually benefiting from. Increases your crit rating. Of course, that increases our crit chance. Reduces the stamina cost of bow abilities. Of course, we want them to be cheaper so we can spam them more. And dealing damage with a light or heavy attack increases your damage of your bow abilities, surprise, by 5% for 5 seconds. And it stacks up to 5 times. So, in your rotation, every time you fire one of these, or one of these, you add a stacking bonus, which multiplies by 5, so 25% increase eventually of all your damage. And as long as you do a light attack or a heavy attack once every 5 seconds, that bonus will stay with you forever. That's also very important when we get to the gear, and that also applies to your 12% bonus for range. So the further away, the more damage you do. So this is going to hurt him a lot. Ouch. Now, also to consider, this is a bonus. This does make us run faster. This is one I was going to skip a minute ago. You dodge roll, you run faster. Major expedition. However, that's exactly the same as this. So you don't actually have to dodge roll to benefit from it. You can use it straight away. So that's your choice. I mean, if you want to buy it for convenience, go for it, but we don't actually need it. Light armor, we're using 1 piece of light armor, so I would probably suggest getting these bonuses here if you can afford them, just to give you extra recovery and reduction to cost, because we are using one magic ability and a little bit of resistance as well, but you don't have to. Medium armor, of course, we're using 5 pieces of medium armor, so we want to increase our crit rating based on how many pieces we're wearing. We want to reduce the cost of our abilities, and of course increase our stam recovery. This one is not that important because it's all sneaky stuff, but of course you can get it if you want. This is very important, increases our weapon damage by 12%, and of course this one here will reduce the cost of dodge roll. Now this one does need another skill point in it, I waste it on something else, but make sure you put your points into here and you'll get a reduction to dodge roll cost as well. Heavy armor, you don't have to get any of these if you don't want to. I mean, they're minor bonuses to return if you get hit, and also physical and spell resistance if you can afford them. But above all, I would get this because this is a 2% increase to your overall health for wearing one piece of heavy armor. Every piece of heavy armor that you do wear will obviously improve this by a further 2%, but we're using one, so we'll take the bonus. Vampire, yes, we're a stage 4 vampire. 10% increase to mag recovery and stam recovery, which is insane, especially alongside the 12% we get from our animal companion skill line. And of course, you reduce the damage you take by up to 33% while you're under 50% health, based on how much is missing. So the lower your health goes, under 50%, the less damage you take. This is incredibly powerful and really, really important, especially if you're on a stamina, because you can take quite a lot of damage being squashy. We don't have a damage shield or anything, but obviously we've got a bit of a risk factor, which saves us, because if we do go low, we take less, giving the healers kind of an opportunity to make sure you don't drop. Fighters Guild, of course, this is very, very important, and this is why this comes into play. This or this, either one of the two you can slot. But I like to use this because occasionally when I'm kind of on top of my stamina and I've got way too much to use, I like to put this down and give myself a little bit of a buff, and people around me as well. Now, Intimidating Presence obviously reduces the cost of that if you do cast it, but you won't be casting this if you slot it. This is just a bonus. But for each ability slotted, your weapon damage is increased by 3%. So we have one ability on the bar for that. That's it. Nothing else. We don't need any other abilities on this bar. We don't need our heal on here, although you can do if you want. You don't need it on this bar though. We don't have a damage shield. We don't have Deadly Cloak because we're not using dual wield. Doesn't work with a bow. We don't have anything we can use. So I put this on, meaning that our flat damage is increased. That's all it is. Very, very simple. Slot it, leave it there. Also, you generate 9 ultimate when you kill undead, Daedra or werewolves. You will kill loads of them. Every one that you get the kill and blow on will give you 9 ultimate. Our ultimate costs 75 points. If you're killing undead and Daedra and werewolves and all that kind of stuff, especially with the new DLC coming up actually, because that's going to be werewolf based, you are going to be able to fire off that ultimate on your bear left, right and center. It is going to be absolutely mental. Also, Undaunted, this is very, very important. Make sure you pick up every synergy you can get. Synergies will benefit you no matter what. They give you sustain back, they give you damage shields, they heal you, all these different shiny things that they give you bonuses for. But if you take them with this passive, you will also get 4% of your max resources back. Magic, stamina and health. So a heal and some of your juice back. Very, very important. Take the bloody synergies. Don't leave them on the floor for everybody else. Increases your max health, stamina and magicka by 2% for each piece of armor, or each type of armor worn rather. So if you're using light armor, you'll get 2%. If you're using medium armor, you get 2%. And if you're using heavy, you'll get 2%. We're using all three. 1 light, 1 heavy, 5 medium. 6% bonus across the board, which is why our health is so high and why our stamina is over 36k. It's really, really handy. Now, we are an Imperial, of course. This isn't set in stone. You can change it if you want. But Imperial get a 12% bonus to health, which is absolutely insane. Really, really, really strong. Also, we have a flat bonus of 10% stamina, which is exactly the same as a Red Guard, and of course, that means that we pump out the same amount of damage. Now, Red Diamond is based on melee attacks. We don't do any melee attacks except for the bash if we have to interrupt something, so you can actually heal from that, but it's pretty redundant passive, unless of course you switch to dual wield at any point in time, in which case obviously your lights and heavies will heal you. Lights and heavies from the bow do not heal you, and they shouldn't do, but if you are bashing a target or something like that, you can actually get a heal from it, so it's quite nice. But above all, it's for the flat stats. 12% increase to health, which is huge, and 10% increase to max stamina. There are other choices if you want them, but that is up to you. Not something that I'm going to go too much into. Some other races give recovery, but obviously less stats. Some give less health as well, but faster run speed. There's all these different bonuses you can have as a Bobo build. It's entirely up to you what you're more comfortable with. But for me, since I'm out in the field, I like to have more health and flat stamina. Alchemy, of course you don't have to max this out and keep it there. You can max it out and then dump all the points and just get this, but this passive above all is essential. This will give you 30% increased duration on your potions. I'm using crafted potions. If I have this passive, instead of lasting 36 seconds, they last 47.6, which means they last 2.5 seconds longer than their cooldown. So when they run out, I pop one again. I have 100% uptime on my bonuses, which, by the way, I'm going to now go over. We do use potions, and we use these ones. Essence of Weapon Power. Gives us Major Brutality all the time. Yes, we've already got that, so that's not necessarily that important. Major Savagery. Now, if you put Evil Hunter on the front bar, you'll have it on the front bar, but you won't have it on the back. But this gives us 100% uptime on it. Major Endurance, we do already have covered with our Bird of Prey, but if you ever drop it, then this will still continue to run. So these are really, really nice to keep up all the time. Very, very strong indeed. Now, if you can't afford these, don't panic. Just make yourself some little crit pots so you got Major Savagery all the time. There is a bonus version of that actually where you can heal from it as well. You can make a potion that will give you Major Savagery, and it will give you a heal, and it will give you the health recovery bonus as well. That's not necessarily essential because we're a vampire anyway, but there are other choices if you prefer. Now, we should get to the gear now and start making some sense. There are some new sets in Summerset. And there's one set in particular that people thought was stupid, because we are not using a beast trap. And most bow builds, if they are going to go range, will try and throw the lightweight beast trap out, which lasts 6 seconds and costs a lot of stamina. You can't really sustain that. It's never going to work. Also, if you do have the rearming trap, which means that not only are you still spending a lot of resources on a skill that you have to now reposition yourself to use, but you're not utilizing your increase to damage for bow abilities by being ranged. However, I don't use a beast trap because I don't need to. We're using this. We're using Griffin's bow, and then you can use 3 jewelry pieces or body pieces or whatever, as long as you've got 5 pieces. The bow counts as 2, find yourself 3 more. This gives us crit chance again, weapon damage, and then after dealing direct damage, gain minor force and minor expedition for 3 seconds, increasing your crit damage by 10% and increasing your movement speed by 10%. Now, what's direct damage? This is. There you go. I glow yellow for a bit. I got 3 seconds of the bonus. Fire it again. Oh, killed it. Fire it at him. Fire it at him. It constantly reapplies every single time you do direct damage, except for when you go to your back bar, you can have 100% uptime on those buffs. 10% increased crit damage, 10% speed buff. However, again, remember that this gives us major expedition. That also gives us minor expedition, so we have a 40% increase to run speed. We are extremely fast. We're out of the way, we're doing range damage, and we're quick, so we can get in and out of trouble as and when we need to. We are very, very fast. Now, you can keep that almost up 100% of the time. Now, this can be kept up 100% of the time anyway because of your rotation, lasts 10 seconds almost, and this can as long as you're not on your back bar for too long. It does carry over, so when you swap to the back bar, 3, 2, it's gone, then you get to the front and you're good. So you get about 2 second downtime on the set, but you'll have a full uptime on the run speed. Now let's keep going. This is sharpened on purpose, of course, because we don't have too much in the way of penetration sets, so this helps close that gap. If, however, you are in an optimized, let's say, trial situation where you know for sure that your group has got loads and loads and loads and loads of penetration, and you are hitting cap or even going way over it, you can swap this to Nernhoned or Precise if you prefer. But honestly, through countless amounts of tests, it has actually been much, much stronger having this as sharpened across the board, especially when it comes to debuffs and buffs dropping off, as they will do. So I prefer sharpened for this, and of course on the back bar is a Maelstrom bow. This needs to be on your back bar because volley benefits from this a lot. The damage from volley is already disgusting. With this weapon, it excels. It's really, really powerful. But if you don't have this, don't panic. You can just put another one of these on the back bar, or even go crafted if you want. For those of you using 2 of these, one on the front, one on the back, you will have, or you can have, 100% uptime on minor force and minor expedition. Just consider that if you don't have the Maelstrom bow. Now, we are using poisons, of course. 2 poison dots on the same poison, which is incredibly powerful, and of course that can proc poison status effect, giving us another dot as well, so really, really nice. We are using 2-piece Storm Fist. Yes, I've tried lots of other sets. Half of them can't reach, and half of the others don't do anywhere near as much damage. This gives us a recovery bonus, which is really, really nice, especially since we're at range. We need to make sure that we've got a good amount of recovery so we can use our abilities more often. And of course, this will actually do a big Thunder Fist type attack from underneath the target, doing shock damage initially, and of course physical damage as well. It's small AoE, it does it every 8 seconds, but it's really, really strong. Now, another choice, by the way, if you feel that you're too squashy and you want a little bit more health, you can actually go with Vulcan Scoria. Alongside all the testing that I've done, the Vulcan Scoria helmet, if you can sustain it, has actually topped out to do the same sort of numbers. So the choice is yours, whatever you're more comfortable with. This for the recovery and for the proc, or Vulcan Scoria for the really, really good proc, because it procs off of damage over time, fires once every 5 seconds if you're lucky. The damage actually calculates up to be really, really, really close. So it's up to you. The other set, of course, if you've been in Summerset or any of the local areas in the last God knows how long, you will know for sure that Cloud Rest is really busy right now, especially since it's new. You can see pickup groups going left, right, and center. Normal Cloud Rest this, normal Cloud Rest that. Get yourself in there and get yourself a 5-piece set of Reliquin. Now this is an advanced set, but I'm going to show you exactly how to use it. It gives you crit chance, it gives you minus Slayer, increasing the damage you do in dungeons and trials. It gives you another crit chance, so we've got loads and loads of crit, and your light and heavy attacks apply a stack of harmful winds to your target for 5 seconds. The winds get stronger and stronger every time you fire another one. Up to 20 stacks is the maximum you can stack this up to. But if you drop a light or heavy attack for more than 5 seconds, it will start again. So you lose all that damage. Now we're going to go to the skeleton in a moment. I'm going to show you exactly how to utilize this properly. But you want to make sure you get 5 Reliquin, 5 Griffin, and 2 Stormfist. Now you can have them in any order as long as the Griffin bow is on the front bar. It must be on the front. Both bars if you have to, but it must be on the front bar if you're using a Maelstrom weapon. Now we're using Robust on everything. Yes, I've tried Bloodthirsty and all that good stuff. Robust on everything, weapon damage on everything as well. Now, I'm going to go to my house and I'm going to show you exactly what I mean, and I'm going to show you how to line up all these skills and abilities, and I'm going to show you exactly how to use Reliquin, because it can be quite complicated for some and it can fall off and get really frustrating. Looks really good on the dummy, but can you actually apply it in an actual situation where you're going to need to do damage? Well, I'm going to show you how to do that. So I'm going to go to my house first of all, then I'm going to jump into the CPs and I'll show you a demonstration from there. So, like I said, first of all, we're going to go over the CPs, champion points. These you can change if you want, depending on the situation, but it's a nice balance across the board. Most of my characters got pretty much the same layout for the red stuff, so this is where I'm quite comfortable with, but depending on the trial or dungeon you're in, you might have to alter them. 56 into Ironclad, reducing the amount of direct damage we take. 64 into Hardy, reducing the amount of damage we take from poison, disease, and physical. And of course, 13% into here, 64 points, making sure that we take less damage from flame, frost, shock, and magic. Thick-skinned as well, making sure that we use our points wisely here. Don't go too far because diminished returns are quite high, but 19% into here is actually just fine, and that will mean that any of these two types of abilities will be reduced even further if they're a damage over time ability. 15 points into quick recovery for an increased 4% healing received. That's any heals you do or any heals that get given to you. But above all, 10 points in this tree will unlock Field Physician. If you resurrect someone, you take 15% less damage while doing so. This is very, very important, and we're really, really fast, so we can get to dead bodies quite quick. 28 points into Warlord, reduce the amount of cost it would take to break free if we get stunned. 75 into Tenacity, meaning that our heavy attacks actually restore 14% more than they would do normally. And of course 75 points into here for Stam Recovery, an increase to our overall Stam Recovery, which is really, really high. Now, be careful with this. If you go any more than 75 points, you're not going to get any bonus until you hit 15%, which is going to be 25 whole points. They're going to be wasted doing nothing all the way to 100 because the diminished returns are too high. So put them somewhere else useful, like here, which we've already done, and of course 72 points into Tumbling. We do dodge roll a lot as a stamina. That's how we evade, and it's the same pool as we use for our damage. So we want to make sure that we reduce the cost as much as possible, so we don't run out of juice just trying to avoid shit. Nothing in here. 56 points into Master at Arms, increasing our direct damage, which is our light attacks, our heavy attacks, our snipe, our cliff racer if we do use it, the cut and dive. Also, the shout counts as direct damage as well. So you want to make sure you get as many points into here as possible without going too nuts and without losing too much elsewhere. 19 points into lights and heavies, of course, so they're flat just for your lights and heavies, which is really nice. And of course, for having 75 points in this skill tree, we unlock the Butcher passive, which gives us more damage to our lights and heavies while the enemy is under 25% health. So this is kind of an execute passive. Now remember, the higher your resources, the more damage you do from your lights and your heavies, meaning a big stamina pool actually contributes a lot to that. It didn't used to, but it does now in Summerset. It used to be really heavy on weapon damage. Now it's a lot more heavier on flat resources. So it's really, really important. And of course, our lights and heavies are going to be used all the time. We use a light between every single ability, if not a heavy attack. 40 points into precise strikes to make sure that when we do crit, they hit hard. We are going to need to crit as much as possible. You cannot afford to miss direct damage. If you miss a couple dot ticks, that's fine. If you miss a snipe, that's going to really hurt. Thaumaturge, of course, we are using damage over time, but not too much of it. So the passive damage that we do, we want to make sure that we increase it a little bit. But don't go too nuts in here, because if you push too much into Thaumaturge, you'll lose points in Master at Arms and your flat damage will suffer. 34 points into Piercing to make sure that we've got a nice flat penetration bonus, because we don't have anything on our sets. We do have sharpened weapons, and of course we'll have a Torn or Major Fracture from our own abilities as well, pushing that up a little bit. And then you can get buffs on top of this. But this is a really nice kind of level ground to put your points into to start with. You can go more into it if you want, especially if you're solo, but you really don't have to. 64 points into Mighty to increase our physical, poison, and disease damage across the board by 13% as well. Now, how do we use this stuff? Remember, a light attack, there's a buff down there. You see that little eye, the pink circle with the eye in the middle? That's Hawkeye. Now if I stack these up, 2, 3, 4, 5, you can see it says 5 on there, and it's ticking down underneath it. Do it again. I can keep that running all the time. That will give me an increased 25% damage to my bow abilities, my light, my heavy, and of course my abilities. Now also you'll notice, if you look above the skeleton on this one, you'll see a little blue swirling wind. That is Reliquin. That also needs to be applied every 5 seconds. So two things to consider. If you are constantly keeping your Hawkeye passive active, you are also constantly keeping your Reliquin active, because they are on exactly the same timers. So if you drop one of them, watch my timers and watch the skeleton's timer, you lose both of them. So what you now need to do is make sure that not only do you stack up as many lights and heavies as possible, but you bloody keep them. So if I'm going to fight this dude here, and he's got light attacks far and left, right and center, and this is all part of my rotation, and I suddenly have to dodge roll, get a light attack in quick so that shit doesn't run out. If you have to move out of mechanics, or you have to heal, that's fine, but keep a mental note of 5 seconds and get that back on there quick before it runs out. Do not lose it. As soon as you lose it, you will lose the stack and bonus, and you will lose your stack and Hawkeye bonus. So that set loses its 20 points of stacks, and you lose 25% damage to your bow abilities. Be very, very aware of your buff timers. Hawkeye and Reliquin are exactly the same timers. Also, that light attack procs Griffin. Minor Force, Minor Expedition. Just for doing this light attack, you stack up another version of that, you stack up another Hawkeye, you stack up another Reliquin. It's very, very simple. Those lights and heavies are key. So remember, you must keep them active at all times. Once every 5 seconds, no matter what bar you're on. If you're in mechanics, get out of mechanics. While you're moving, turn your camera and give him another one. Even if you can't do a rotation, make sure he's always getting hit with a light attack. Now, I'm going to go over the rotation. Hopefully this isn't too complicated. That was the simplest way I could describe how everything lines up, but it's very, very important to remember. Now, of course, we want Major Brutality on all the time. It's free for us. It comes from this little dude here. And every rotation, we will have that up 100% of the time. We're never going to lose out on it. We're never going to lose out on a stand bonus, and it's never going to cost us the thing to do so. Also, if we activate it, and we haven't activated an animal ability within the last 8 seconds, that will give us ultimate. Also, it will heal us, giving us minor toughness if we've took damage. So this little dude is very important. He must be up all the time. Now the wings give us 8% damage. 8% on top of the 8% we get from our animal abilities, and on top of the weapon damage we get from the Fighters Guild. Now remember I said that our weapon damage is quite low, 2.6. Yes, it's quite low, but we get 5% increase to all of our damage with this set, and we also get another 8% increased damage across the board from our animal companions' passives. So our damage is not all in our stats. You can't see it all. It's really, really high. Now, this dude needs to stay up first of all. So make sure you activate him as soon as you go into a fight. Make sure you activate the wings as well. And above all, your shulk needs to be the first button you hit. It will pop, it will do damage, and it will hit him with major fracture. Yes, the tank should have major fracture anyway, but it's really, really nice to hit with AoE, or to make sure that you're hitting yourself if you are solo. If you're solo, you've got to have that ability down, you'll do more damage. Now, once that is down, so we'll start from the basics. Make sure our wings are on, make sure our Betty's on, and we'll put the shulk on and swap bars. Now, that will fire now, but that won't be firing first. We apply it first, it takes 3 seconds to pop. Back bar. Volley. Light attack. Poison injection. Light attack. Wings. Light attack. Shulk. Swap. I'll do it again. On the back bar. Volley. Light attack. Poison injection. Light attack. Wings. Light attack. Shulk. Swap. Front bar is very, very simple. You light attack. Lethal arrow. Light attack. Lethal arrow. Light attack, shulks, light attack, Betty, swap. Now, the reason we swap when we use the shulks is because it will fire on the back bar. So we use it here, it will fire on the back. And by the time we're finished doing all that stuff here, it's fired. We fire another one, and it will fire on the front. So we can keep a really high uptime on that. Now I'm going to go over it once more in a full rotation to try and make sense of it so you can see where I'm going with it. You start with the wings, start with the Betty, and then you basically shulk and swap. Don't worry about the food. Volley, light, poison, light, wings, light, shulk, swap. Light lethal, light lethal, light shulk, light, Betty, swap. Start again. During that rotation, if you feel like you're dipping too low, you can actually change one of those light attacks for a heavy attack before the lethal arrow. Now the way to do this, the way I found it to be more efficient, isn't just hold heavy attack and hit lethal arrow and then do it again. What I tend to do is light attack lethal, and while lethal's running I hold heavy attack so it fires afterwards, and then I fire another. So I go light lethal, heavy lethal. That's your alteration to that rotation, nothing else. The only other thing you need to add is on your front bar, when Yogi's ready, hit your ultimate. And he'll hit really, really hard. That was a 21k, but he's not under 25%. If he was, he'd hit even harder. So let's, without doing a full rotation, let's just get him down a bit and try and build some ultimate. Always light attack between every single ability, if not heavy attack. And even with the bear, make sure you light attack before you fire it. So let's say for argument's sake, I'm going to do 2 lethal arrows. I'll do one here, and all my ultimate's ready in between. Light attack, bear, light attack, the other lethal. Just squeeze it in there. He hits really bloody hard, but he's not critting much. Anyway, hopefully that helps. If it does, then good. If not, you might want to rewind it and go through it again. But I'm now going to show you a demonstration on the skeleton to show you what sort of potential this actually has single target at range. Very, very important. Remember, you must be at range. You get massive bonuses for damage for doing so. Take advantage of it. Here we go. Okay, so hopefully that helped. Hopefully that wasn't too boring. Hopefully you now have a better understanding of this particular build. I know some of you have seen it on the live stream and wondered what the hell I'm doing. Now you know. So, you've seen the outcome, you've seen the build, you've seen the overall setup, and now you know what to do with it. Enjoy. Hopefully you can get the stuff quite cheap as well, because at the moment this set has been ignored. Not Reliquin, obviously, because that comes from a trial, but this Griffin set has been completely ignored by most people because they think that minor force bonus is not relevant because you can use a beast trap. I'm not using a beast trap. So, get it quick before it gets expensive. Anyway, thank you very, very much indeed, all of you, for watching. I fully appreciate the support, and if you're not subscribing, please do hit that button. It is free. Furthermore, if you'd like to support the channel outside of YouTube, there are some links in the description for Patreon, Twitter, Facebook, the website, XynodeGaming.com, where all the written guides are, and of course a forum as well, and of course Twitch. I am live streaming a lot on Twitch now, every single day, in fact, 10 PM UK time, with the odd YouTube stream occasion depending on the event, so go and check that out as well. Once again, thank you all very, very much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye bye.